Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Whilst China might support this terrible deal, let me tell the Minister that the British people do not support this appalling deal, giving away our strategic security asset, paying tens of billions of our taxpayers' money in the process, and suffering tax rises in order to pay for it, in order that the Mauritians get tax cuts. Since the government's in the mood of U-turns, why do they take the hint and U-turn on this terrible Chagos deal?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'm not going to take any lessons from a party that fawns over Vladimir Putin.
It's amazing that we give up an important security base without being necessary to have to do so. That we pay billions to a government which will allow them to have tax cuts while we impose tax burdens on our own country, and that the Minister stands here today from the dispatch box and says that he doesn't have time to explain why it was necessary to do so. Surely the way to ensure that we have proper scrutiny of this is to have a proper debate, or is he afraid that his own backbenchers, once they hear the real story, will find it as difficult to walk through the lobbies for it as they did for the benefits bill yesterday?
Minister. Well, I have respect for the honourable gentleman, but I totally reject his assertion. There is full support for this deal, and indeed full support for it from our allies in the United States and the Five Eyes partners. And on the point about alleged tax cuts, at no point in his budget speech did Prime Minister Rangulam say that he was planning to fund income tax reform with the money from this deal. That was very, very clear. And indeed, the rationale for this deal, which I've explained multiple times in this House, Mr. Speaker, is because our national security was at risk and the operations of that base could not function as they did. That's why the opposition started the negotiations. It's why we concluded them.
The Minister will be aware of a pending judicial review challenge focused on the lack of consultation with the Chagosians. Why was there not full and adequate consultation with the Chagosian people?
Minister. Well, Mr. Deputy Speaker, I'm not going to comment, obviously, on ongoing judicial matters, but as I've set out a number of times, the negotiations were necessarily between the UK and Mauritius. However, we recognise the importance of the islands to Chagosians, and that's why the measures that we've set out, I set out to the honourable gentleman a moment ago, have been put in place.
The honourable gentleman, who I have a huge amount of respect for, keeps saying the government had no choice but to do this deal. I do not believe that to be true. My successor, the Lord Cameron, did not believe that to be true, which is why neither I nor he signed off an agreement. So, in detail, please will he explain to the House why he believed that he had no choice, including what body, at what time, with what jurisdiction?
Mr. Speaker, in the interest of time, I will refer him to the detailed evidence I gave in the House of Lords on this matter the other day, including the legal circumstances. He knows the risks to the operations of the base in the medium and short term, and he recognises the risk of a binding legal judgment, which we believe to be inevitable. And his government knew that, and that's why they started the process. And he may not have been able to conclude the deal, I accept that, Mr. Speaker, but they went through 11 rounds of negotiations because they recognised the importance of doing this deal to secure the facility, because it is so crucial to our national security. We put our national security first, we put securing this base first, and that has met with the approval of the United States and our other Five Eyes allies.
Could the Minister tell the House why does he think China supports this deal?
Mr. Speaker, I've been very, very clear. The United States supports this deal. Our Five Eyes partners support the deal. India supports this deal. Mauritius was one of the few countries not to join the Belt and Road Initiative. It is very clear this is in the interests of our security and that of our allies. Otherwise, the United States would not have agreed to it in the first place.
Answering this urgent question, with the 21-day CRAG process about to conclude, it is a disgrace that Labour have breached the parliamentary conventions and denied this House a meaningful debate and vote on ratification. The Minister does say that we'll get a vote on the bill, but having a vote on the bill is not the same as voting on a treaty under CRAG. Earlier this week, the House of Lords, the other place, had a debate and vote where the Lib Dems sided with Labour in backing this £30 billion surrender treaty, which is subsidising, Mr. Speaker, tax cuts in Mauritius. So why can't we have a debate and a vote in this House? What are ministers afraid of? Are they afraid that their backbenchers, now worried about benefit cuts and the impact of unpopular tax rises, will question why so much money is being handed over for a territory that we own and force them into another embarrassing U-turn? Are they afraid that MPs across the House will do the maths even and see that the actual money going to Mauritius will be at least 30 billion and not the 3.4 billion accountancy valuation claim that ministers talk about? Are they afraid that Labour's barefaced hypocrisy and appalling treatment of the Chagosian community will be exposed? The minister once said the people of Chagos must be at the heart of the decisions about their future, but this surrender treaty betrays them. He has betrayed them, leaving any decisions on resettlement and support through the trust fund in the hands of Mauritius. With a legal case ongoing, will the minister extend the CRAG process until all legal challenges have concluded? Will the minister finally admit that Labour made October's bad deal even weaker by giving up the unilateral right to extend the lease on the base and ditching the clause authorising the UK to exercise sovereign rights? Is the Prime Minister, as the Prime Minister of Mauritius has said, are they so willing to finally admit this? And can he confirm that there are no guarantees that the current levels of marine protections will continue? There is too much ambiguity around this, and we've not had the clarity. No guarantees on security, on the safeguarding, unanswered questions about notification requirements around the base, no guarantees that Mauritius won't pursue further lawfare to stop operations at the base if they think it'll convene international law, including trying to block nuclear weapons with the Pendolano Treaty, and that applying now to the Chagos Islands. He should scrap this treaty, Mr. Speaker, or at least have the courage to bring it here for a proper debate, full scrutiny, and finally, Mr. Speaker, a vote in this House.
Mr. Speaker, I do genuinely have to say, and I say this to somebody who has respect for and likes, indeed, the Honourable Lady, that I am disappointed by the tone of these remarks, and I don't know who writes this stuff, but it's, I don't know whether it's just performative politics or rhetoric, I don't know what, but I should point out, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, that I have received and answered over 100 written parliamentary questions from the Right Honourable Lady. I've answered over 250 questions on this deal and the process in total. We've had no less than 6 urgent questions in this House. We've had 2 statements from the Government by the Foreign Secretary and the Defence Secretary. I personally, Mr. Speaker, briefed the Right Honourable Lady and answered many of her questions in my office just a couple of weeks ago in good faith and in detail. And indeed, Mr. Speaker, I was subjected, Mr. Speaker, quite rightly, to robust scrutiny, not only from the Foreign Affairs Committee of this House, Mr. Speaker, but also for the International Relations and Defence Committee in the other House, and indeed the International Arrangements Committee, in great detail on these issues. Now, I don't know, Mr. Speaker, whether the Right Honourable Lady and her team are simply not reading the transcripts, whether they're not reading the answers to the questions, but I have repeatedly answered. She might not like the answers, Mr. Speaker, but I've answered these questions. I have set out the position on costs, I've set out the position on the security arrangements, I've set out the positions on the vetoes that we have, Mr. Speaker. And the fact is, Mr. Speaker, that this deal secures this base, it secures our national security and that of our allies. It is absolutely right that it has had the proper scrutiny. And, Mr. Speaker, there will be a vote, because there will be a vote on the legislation which we will be putting before the House in due course.
After yesterday's complete chaos, my constituents are bracing themselves for big tax increases in the autumn. How does he think they feel when they see the Mauritian government crowing about virtually abolishing income tax in Mauritius thanks to the largesse he's about to pour on them?
Minister. Well, Mr. Speaker, I am genuinely surprised by the comments from the Honourable Gentleman, who, as a former Defence Minister and indeed his own service, he will know the importance of this base, he will know the importance of securing it, and he will know the risks to our operations that were inherent under the previous government. And that is why his previous government started this process. It's why we've concluded it. And it's also why, Mr. Speaker, that in relation to the costs, our costs for this deal are broadly comparable to, for example, what France pays for the base in Djibouti. But this is 15 times larger and has immeasurably more capability, as he well knows.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And in his response, he quoted the answer from the Defence Secretary to my question, saying he had no choice. But the reason for doing this is because you're worried that you might be taken to court. So therefore you do have a choice. And this is what my constituents and this side are so upset about. The government could have a fight in the court. The government could then appeal that decision in the court. Yet it's chosen not to. And it won't explain why. That's why this side of the House is so upset. So could he set out What was the immediacy and why he and his government won't go to that court, the tribunal that he's so worried about, to have that fight? Because if it gets shut down, we on this side understand that. If we have a legal responsibility to pay it, we will do. But we don't, and we haven't had our day in court as a country, and that is the travesty of this deal.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I have to correct him, because we have had days in court on this issue, and that is one of the reasons that the non-binding judgment in the International Court of Justice. But he also forgets to mention, Mr. Speaker, the Tribunal of the Law of the Sea. He forgets to mention the votes in the United Nations. He forgets to mention all of the other legal processes. And the fact is that it is our view, and indeed was the view of the previous government, that an inevitably legally binding judgment would follow. It is not responsible, Mr. Speaker, with such a key national security asset to leave it in this way. No, Mr. Speaker, the responsible thing to do is to secure the base with our allies, and that is exactly what we have done.